All right, so are you ready to really kind of dig into a Taurus and Pisces love connection?
Let's do it.
We are talking about two signs that everyone knows love pleasure and deep emotion.
Hmm.
But the way they experience those things, totally different.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Taurus finds their pleasure in more tangible things. Like think about luxurious fabrics, amazing meals, really anything that you experience with your five senses. But Pisces, they're looking for pleasure in feelings and in dreams.
So it's like one is a gourmet chef and the other one is writing poetry about the meal.
Yes, exactly. And that's what makes this pairing so interesting. But also, there can be some bumps in the road. So just imagine you're a Taurus and you've planned this really romantic dinner. You have candles, music, the whole nine yards, right? But then your Pisces date is totally in their own world, daydreaming about some super romantic gesture that hasn't even happened.
Oh, man. See, that sounds like that could lead to some hurt feelings, especially for a Taurus who puts so much thought into those really tangible expressions of love.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that neither sign is wrong for the way they experience things. It's not about one person changing, but it's more about understanding the differences so that each person feels like their needs are being met.
And our analysis mentioned idealization as something to keep an eye on with Pisces. Is that what we were kind of talking about here?
Absolutely. Pisces has this uncanny ability to just see the potential in absolutely everything, and especially at the beginning of a relationship that can make the other person, their partner, feel like they are the most amazing person on the planet.
Yeah.
Like you're wrapped up in this blanket of adoration.
But like anything else, that probably doesn't last forever.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. And remember, all of this idealization is all based on the Pisces internal world and not who the Taurus actually is.
Yeah.
So when those rose-colored glasses inevitably come off, the Taurus might start to wonder if they're actually seen for who they truly are.
So communication is key, right? Making sure you're expressing your needs and not just assuming the other person knows what you were thinking.
You would think that, right? But this is where this whole Taurus-Pisces thing gets even more interesting. Because they might not actually need to talk as much as other couples. Their communication style is more about unspoken cues and intuition.
Wait, are we talking about that whole, look across a crowded room type of connection? Because that sounds pretty intense.
Exactly. Because Taurus is ruled by Venus, the planet of love and beauty.
Yeah.
They are super in tune with aesthetics, little gestures, really all of those nonverbal cues. And then you have Pisces. And Pisces are basically swimming in intuition. They just seem to know how the other person is feeling without saying a word.
So on one hand, you have this deeply romantic, almost psychic connection. But then on the other hand, there's a lot of room for miscommunication if they aren't on the same page.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Can they use those deep wells of emotion and intuition to actually connect? Or will they end up lost in a sea of assumptions and unmet needs?
Because let's be real, this is a relationship that is all about intense emotion.
Yeah.
And I know from our analysis that when we talk about intensity, we can't forget about how that can ebb and flow, especially for a Pisces.
They're like riding a wave, yeah, Pisces. And for a while, the Taurus might really like feeling swept up in everything. But when that wave crests and kind of starts to pull back out to sea, that's where it gets tricky.
Especially for a Taurus, because they really need that solid ground, that feeling of this is real and I can depend on it.
Exactly. And this is where I think knowing about their ruling planets is really helpful. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and they find their stability and consistency. They show you they love you with those tangible things we were talking about. Acts of service, nice gifts, physical touch, really anything that says, I am here and I am committed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But Pisces are ruled by Neptune, which is all about emotions, intuition, all of those feelings that you can't always see.
Right. So for a Pisces to feel secure, they need to have that emotional depth, that feeling of really being understood, on a soul level. And that can be hard for a Taurus because, like we said, they're much more grounded and practical in the way they express themselves.
Okay, so if you are a Taurus, how do you make sure that your Pisces partner feels emotionally fulfilled without feeling like you constantly have to prove your love? And if you're a Pisces, how do you tell your partner what you need in a way that a Taurus will understand and be able to respond to?
Those are the questions. And honestly, there's no right answer. But the cool thing about this pairing is that when it works, it is like pure magic. Imagine a Taurus creating this really safe and supportive space where the Pisces can be emotional without any judgment. And then imagine the Pisces really trying to acknowledge and appreciate the ways that the Taurus shows their love every day.
Right. It's about figuring out how to appreciate these different love languages, even if they don't feel totally natural to you. Like maybe you don't get why your partner says, I love you a certain way, but you can still appreciate the feeling behind it.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, you can't just change who you are to fit in. It's about meeting in the middle and being open to understanding.
And our analysis mentioned something that I think really ties into this. Shared activities are not. This is a big deal for Taurus and Pisces.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is where fixed versus mutable energy can really come into play. But before we get into that, can we explain those terms a little?
Yes, please. Sometimes I feel like astrology jargon goes right over my head.
No worries, it's really not that complicated. Fixed signs, like Taurus, like stability and routine, they want things to be predictable, reliable, and enjoyable. But mutable signs, like Pisces, are all about going with the flow and being flexible. They need change and variety to feel energized and inspired.
So are you saying that a Taurus wants to plan out a whole itinerary for a vacation, but a Pisces is happy just booking a one-way ticket and seeing what happens?
Exactly. You got it. And that can
Oh.
either be an amazing adventure or a total relationship disaster.
Okay, so we have our Taurus who knows what they like and likes to plan ahead. And then we have our Pisces who is ready to throw out the plan and just see what happens. How on earth do these two go on vacation together without driving each other crazy?
Well, like we have been talking about, it really all comes back to understanding and compromise. Maybe the Taurus gets to indulge in all their favorite things during the week, so like going to their favorite restaurant or just staying in and watching a movie. But then on the weekend, they're up for trying that new restaurant that the Pisces has been wanting to go to, or maybe even like a last-minute weekend trip.
So it's about making sure that both people feel like their needs are being met and no one feels like they're having to change who they are.
Yeah, and it goes back to that whole thing of you can't change anyone, but you can choose to love them for who they are. And I think with this pairing, that means accepting those things that seem like total opposites, being grounded, but also going with the flow.
This has been so interesting, and for anyone listening who is in a Taurus-Pisces relationship, or really any relationship, it's about how can you use this information to grow closer instead of using it to point out everything your partner is doing wrong.
Yes. Because relationships aren't about finding someone who checks off all the boxes. It's about wanting to be together even when things are hard.
So for our listeners who are trying to make a Taurus-Pisces relationship work, what is the one thing you want them to take away from all of this?
I would say just remember that all of the things that make you different, all of the things that might cause little arguments or make it hard to understand each other, those are the same things that make your relationship really special. When you look at your differences with curiosity and really want to understand, that is how you find a love that feels magical.